in GIS, in Open Office, and so many other application databases, etc. However, there are certain softwares they lack the development. We wait for years for them to improve because they don't have finance. For example, computer-aided design. We still have to buy AutoCAD and all of these commercial software that started as inferior products, but they've been supported by the overwhelming use of Microsoft Office. But there's nobody who is financing open software for that industry, and because we don't have any that QCAD is as an inferior small product, but nobody. However, when the US government is supporting GIS, we have superior GIS, and when certain universities are supporting databases, we have excellent databases. So it is the marketing, the finance, and then the third, which is very important. If a society does not treat information technology as a service, that is the role of the overall society, the government, the local authority, that it should be treated like health, like education, like transportation, and it has to be supported completely. Otherwise, the open source will be just like any other market, and the society will be charged even for using open source that they have defended in the beginning. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the comment and the intervention. Well, I think I just want to comment on the idea that sometimes someone might come and charge us for using free and open source software. That will never happen. Very simply because the license, the legal device that is used to release the software prevents that from happening. There is nothing wrong with building businesses around free and open source software. And actually, if we are talking about the next 10 years, one of the things that I would love to see is a vibrant ecosystems of companies in the Arab region that serve first the needs of the Arab region and also export free and open source software applications and services to other parts of the world. But when you release a piece of software under an open source license, particularly the GPL, there is no way that someone will come, take this and change it. Some companies use what they call dual license. So if you write a piece of software from scratch, you write it completely, you don't use any other software, then you have the choice of the license that you want to release the code under. So these companies say, okay, we want to do good to the community, so we'll release this application as free software under the GPL, but we will also release another copy under a proprietary license. We will launch this and we will put it out there for free for everyone, but we will charge for that one. And well, they want to make money, so if it's exactly the same version, no one will actually buy that proprietary version. So what they do is they start to differentiate the two versions. So they add some features here, some interfaces, some localization that's not available in the other version, but it's still available. That version is still available. And what happens sometimes, the community that gathers around the community version, the free version, becomes so active that they surpass the development of the company itself. And the company cannot take these modifications and lock them up because they were created by the community. So that's a very interesting dynamic, but I'm sure that the legal provisions in the licenses will ensure that the code, at least a version of the open licensed or the free software code available, will remain there forever. Thank you.
I have a slightly different take on that very point. I wish I could remember who said it, but there is an old phrase in English: "The cost of liberty is eternal vigilance." I mean, I do think there's always reasons to be concerned. Frankly, for every decision, is this decision in the future going to harm me? And if so, how can I reduce the risks of that? I think that's frankly a good question, not just for open source software, but for life in general. That said, I think the risks are reduced significantly for flaws. They're not eliminated, though, and there are things I think you need to watch out for. And I think taken properly, they can reduce the risk of that a great extent. First of all, he did mention that this is actually probably the first open source software conference I've ever participated in, and I've participated in a lot, where licensing discussions haven't shown up until the second day. There isn't a single open source software license. There are several, and they have different ramifications. Some of them are released under what's called permissive regimes, where there is a version that's permitted that is open source, but you can take it, modify it, turn it into a proprietary product, and then release it. Now, if you use the proprietary, and there's also, as he mentioned, a version, it's somewhat similar approach. It's not really similar, but where you can have, if you completely own the copyrights, you can release it as both a GPL product and as a proprietary product, and then you can even make differentiated changes. In both cases, there is an open source version, but there is also a proprietary version. If you become dependent upon the proprietary version, all of the issues that were raised earlier about proprietary issues once again come to fore, because you're not really talking about an open source program, you're talking about a proprietary program. That said, I do think for the very issue of vendor lock-in, which is fundamentally, I think, a typical way of describing that, the risks are greatly reduced. For one thing, even if someone goes off and creates a differentiated version or takes it and creates a proprietary version from then on, the original open source software is still out there, and you're able to start from there and not from scratch. Let me point out a particular example where this has actually occurred, and that this may actually help. There's a program many years ago developed called SSH. It's a lower level utility, very important for security because it enables secure control of remote computers. Most Unix and Linux systems nowadays actually have this facility built into them because you want to be able to control them remotely for doing administration, but you also want to make sure that it's completely secure, okay, and is encrypted to a connection and so on. The folks who originally developed SSH released it under permissive license. After a while, they decided that they wanted to make a proprietary version, so they took that program, made a proprietary version, and made changes and sold that for a while. This was a problem, of course, if you wanted to use an open source implementation of this. But people went back and found, well, wait a minute, many years ago there was an open source version of this. So they went back, and this is actually the OpenBSD people, went back, took the old version and said, this is a whole lot easier than starting from scratch. This is a working version. It doesn't have some features we need, but we can improve it. And so it is possible for a community to start from some open source software version and move on from there if someone does what at least the community views as being against its desires. That's not easy, and the quote I listed earlier I think is still appropriate. The cost of liberty is eternal vigilance, and frankly, I believe that will be true 1,000 years from now, and whether or not we talk about software.
Yeah, just a short follow-up. I think firms who develop open source, go to market with it, the single vendor open source I talked about, they're literally obliged to maximize their profits. That's how the current system works, so they will be exploiting all options of generating as much profit as possible. Some of the ideas we heard how that will be less of a danger. A creative company will find ways of working around that. There are many more control points for software projects than just the copyright on the source code. And even if the license addresses not only the